But so thanks for joining today. What we'll go through today is an update recap. We've got a lot of good updates for you here. I'll go through those in a moment. And then for the refresher portion of our training, we'll also go through the DIRT-specific functions for orders, deficiencies, and forecasting. So for the updates, what we're going to go through is this new opportunity summary tab. This is going to be a really great way for you to be able to make a bunch of different updates to your opportunities for key pieces of information, like the status, roles, dates, probability, all just from a single tab. Then the next, we've got quotes and change order request updates. We'll show you how to create DIRT products on hidden line items, as well as change all of your line items, tax and GP with a single action. And then also, we've added the functionality to view internal notes on the internal pricing sheet. So I'll show you that too. Next, we can also track multiple designers' time. Currently, it is limited to just the lead designer for an opportunity or project. Now you can select as many as you need, project to project or opportunity to opportunity. Then we also have a few updates to both my account and my company, which I think are really cool. The first one is you can set a default location for your account. Once you do that, what it will let you do is all of your opportunities newly created will be assigned to that location as well. And then you can also set a default landing page, and I'll show the options once we get there within the application as well. Then my company, we've added the ability to add an address to all of your locations, to configure which address you want to pull through on your documents if you have multiple locations. And then also the ability to view who has the active accounts, which previously had to be done by an administrator. Then finally, we added an additional option to filter by project and opportunity on the calendars within the application for both tasks and schedules. So that's what we'll be going through today. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and jump into the application. So this update will be coming out tonight. So what I'm showing you here is just in our training environment and will be available to you tomorrow morning. So I'm over here on the opportunities overview page. And what I'm going to direct your attention to is this new tab up here at the top labeled summary. So this is where you can find the opportunity summary page. And this is going to be what it looks like. We've got a list of our opportunities over here on the left. You can search through your opportunities with pretty much whatever you might want to search your opportunity for. So the opportunity name, its location, some of those key roles like who's the lead designer or opportunity owner, PM, etc. And you can also search for the address as well. So I'll just show you by location. So I want to just look at the ones aligned to San Antonio, and you can see we've now got a subset of that full list. The next piece I want to show you here is where you can start updating the informations. So we've got our opportunity name, and then we have our status and location. So both of these include a dropdown, so I can move this, this opportunity from identified to qualified. It's as simple as just selecting a new thing from the dropdown. And when we make that selection, our opportunity has been saved here as well. So same thing for the location. I can switch that over from San Antonio to Houston or to Austin or to our headquarters. Headquarters will also be a new option for all projects or for all partners. Previously, an opportunity when created would just not be aligned to a specific location if you have multiple. Now the default will be for it to align to your headquarters, which is just the address that you previously had in your My Company section. Then finally, across this top section, we've got our client name as well as the address from the CRM. So for the rest of this, we'll just take this section by section. I think this update tracker is a really neat one. So if you are using this piece of the application in conjunction with the meeting that you have, say it's for new opportunities or new items, you can go through this update tracker, or you can utilize this update tracker during the meeting for any follow-up items. So I added this one just earlier today, just as an example. So let's make sure to add power and data to the quote based on the conversation with the client on Friday. So because I added this one, I've got 3 options here. Normally you'll just see one option if it is someone else's, and that's the create task. These others just allow you to edit it or delete the comment if you need to. But this one is pretty cool. So if it is a to-do item, what you can do is you can click this black icon here, and it'll show you this, this tooltip here when you hover over it to create a task. So when I click on this, it takes my comment and just puts it as the title on a task. And from there, I can save it. And then this way, I can make sure to close this out specifically as a task. I can get reminders if I've set a due date or anything else like that. It's just kind of a handy way to be able to seamlessly move from a comment over to something that's a true action item. So next, for the schedule details here, we've got our list of all of our schedule items that are aligned to this opportunity. Now, I'm sure there are many of you that have not yet utilized these schedules at the opportunity stage since it was just added in the release before this one. So the schedule that we've got here, all of the items pull through that are open, and you can do a couple of things from this page. Number one is you can edit it. You can click this green icon, and that will pop up the schedule item. So we could, change the date to be a week later if that's what we needed to do. Or we could change, if it's a milestone, to type anything else in here. And then also, without bringing up the pop-up, we can close out the schedule item. So looking at this pre-order entry, we'll just use this one as an example. I'm going to go ahead and click this black icon, and what we should see is it disappear from this list since we're only looking at open schedule items. Click that, and you saw it disappeared. The last piece of this bottom left section is this edit schedule button. So this will take me over to the actual schedule tab within the opportunity. So once I click this, we're now within the full opportunity, and we can see all the other tabs here, and we've got our schedule here. If we just know we need to make a bunch of updates in here, just an easy way to transition between that opportunity summary tab over to the opportunity itself. So I'll go ahead and click back here. And you can see we're still on the same opportunity. So the next section here is for dates and forecast. Over time, we've received feedback from our users that one thing that they'd like to be able to do is to be able to go through their different opportunities and make a bunch of updates, because you may go through and meet with one of your sales reps and you realize that you need to update a half dozen opportunities award date because they've shifted, maybe it's weeks, maybe it's more than that. But whatever the case may be, what you can do is you can just come in here, you can change the award date. Let's say this one's actually going to move up to actually be within this current year. So we'll move it to, say, December 7th. Changing that date right there, it's already saved. You don't have to do anything else. And the same thing's true for all of these other fields. You can just update the win likelihood, and that'll be saved. You can update the dirt forecast, project probability, etc. One other thing I'll point out before we move on to the next section, for the estimated award date, or estimated order date rather, you can select from a schedule item. So you can click this button, and what I'll do is I'll pull up the list of all of your schedule items, and I can use this order entry date to set that date here so that we can keep everything in sync. So by double clicking that sets the order date there. I'm just going to bring this up one more time just to show you that there's also a new and edit button here. So if you don't have any schedule items, but you do want to create an order entry date and to keep it in sync with your project information, you can do that here as well. The next section here is for the SFN details. So we've got our wall, millwork, power and data floors, other, and then our total estimated SFNs. So that's going to pull through as you would expect from our forecasted quote. And the other cool thing here is you can actually view and edit the quote directly from this page by clicking this show quote button. So when I click on this, this is going to pull up the quote that it's pulling all of the information from. And for this one, this is actually kind of jumping into our next piece of functionality, is that you can also designate your dirt items from your hidden line items, which is new to this release. So you can see our millwork here for 6,800 and our walls for 34K. That's where those numbers are ultimately pulling from back to this page. Finally, we have our team. Again, based on feedback we received from our users is that they need to be able to have the ability to change their team easily from opportunity to opportunity. So if we know that the designer is now going to be Dustin or PM is going to be Liz, we can do that and we can set it right here and we can do it really, really easily. And then finally, you can also set your architect and GC. This is using the typepad widget. So as soon as you type a letter, you'll start getting results here below. And once you click on it, it's set and it's been saved. Last but not least, we've got this convert to project button. That will set the project to 1, and then you can pick your success factor, and then you can also convert to project from there. So I'm going to leave this one as an opportunity for right now. But so that, in a nutshell, is this opportunities tab. Hopefully you see, how this could be valuable to you to fold into your existing processes, or if nothing else, to know that there's another way to be able to update a lot of opportunities really, really easily. So the next thing we're going to look at here is both the quote and COR updates. So we'll look at the dirt product on the hidden lines, which we took a brief look at there a second ago. The ability to change all lines, tax, and GP, and then the internal notes on the pricing sheet. So we'll just stick with this example. So I'm going to go ahead and show the quote here. And then we can see that we just have one line item here. So we know that a lot of our partners like using just one line because this is what's going to actually be facing the client. So when you click into this, what you'll see here is for this dirt product at the top line item is going to say not applicable. Just as a side note, this did previously used to be a series of checkboxes that you check the appropriate dirt product, and it is now a drop-down. Otherwise, the functionality really remains the same. So all of our hidden lines down here, the new thing to this is that there's also a dirt product drop-down within this hidden line. Previously, there was just no dirt designation whatsoever. So if you were using your hidden line items and you were just using one, you'd have a rough total for your dirt estimate, but this really lets you be precise with where those pieces fall within your quote. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and create a new one here for, let's say, our power and data, because that's our to do here. So let's say it's for P&D. We'll make it for, let's call it 10K at a 25% margin. We'll set the tax at 7.5% and click save here. So the thing that I want to point out here is now that I saved this new line item, we have this warning that displays down at the bottom. It says, warning, hidden line total cell value does not equal line item cell value. We wanted to include this warning because this is still separate from this top section. The reason we kept it separate is because, occasionally you'll get a quote back from a vendor that say is $50 different than what you estimated. So you wanted to go in and update your cost for that so that you've got the latest and greatest. But if you had maybe shown the cell to your client already, you might not necessarily feel that any need to change the price on that side, like whether it be a little higher or a little lower. So with that in mind, these do not talk to each other automatically, but we did add this button here that says copy totals to above. So when I click that, what it's going to do is it's going to use these totals here from the bottom, and it's going to set this line item to that, and our warning will go away. So I'll go ahead and click that button.
I'm excited about it. It's good for
and
me.
boom, there you go. So the other thing I wanted to, or a couple other things I wanted to show you within quotes is one, this internal notes. We'll just remember that it says see hidden items for dirt component prices. And what we're going to do is we're going to create the internal pricing document. So again, most of our updates really come back from our users, so please do utilize this feedback button. That's what really helps kind of continue to drive the innovation behind the application. But so we've got our internal pricing document here, and the change is really a minor one. It shows now our internal notes will show up below our line item if there are any for the project. And then, of course, we've got all of our hidden items below. And then similarly for alternates, in each alternate, we'll have a section here that will include your internal notes. So we anticipate them selecting this option, but it's not final. So the last new piece of functionality here is this update margin or tax button. You previously had the ability to update the margin, but now you've got the ability to update tax here as well. And I'm only going to demo this on the quote because the functionality works exactly the same on a change order. But so once we click this button, what we'll see is we have a current average DPM here at the top, as well as a current average tax rate. And this is going to include both your base quote as well as your alternates if they're included. So what I'm going to do is taking a look here at what our margin is right now. Let's say we felt like we needed to just reduce our price just slightly in order to be competitive. So I'll mark this down to 19%, and I want to make sure that I want to change our base. The reason we have this set out here is because we wanted to make sure that our users never accidentally changed a number. So this way, it kind of gives it that extra check to make sure that you really do mean to update all of your line items. So we'll update that, and then we'll do the same for our alternates as well. Just update it to 19%, and we'll change that. So our tax percent for our base, we'll call it should be 7.5% here. And then we just want to make sure that everything's nice and uniform, so we're going to change all four. So when I click this update button, what I would expect to see is our margin change here. Cool, and we can see that all of our margin and tax rate are now the numbers. So one thing I do want to point out to you is that it's only going to change your tax if tax should be applied. So it's not going to add tax to a line that is not designated for tax already. And that's what happened with our alternate quote here. So when I double click into this one, what I mean to say is that within our individual line item, it is only changing it if it is already marked taxable. So if it's not marked taxable, it won't change it for it. Cool. So that's our updates on quotes. The next piece here, we've got added the ability to track multiple designers' time. So I'm going to flip back into the application here, and I'm going to use this green button over here to jump into the application. So you can use that one, or you can use this one if you want to go straight to the, or this one rather, if you want to go to the schedule tab. I'm going to go ahead and click this one. And then we're going to come over to the design tab. So you can see we've got a couple of different people in here already, which for all of you, you'll just have one person currently in this designer column. So clicking new here, we've got designer. This used to be just a drop down, and now we've got the type ahead widget. So at the opportunity stage, you'll be able to select anyone from your partner, and then at the project stage, you'll be able to pick anyone on your project team. So let's just say that we're going to add some time for Cody here, and he's got 8 hours today, and his rate for this is going to be $43, and we'll click save. So it's as easy as that. You know, really from a functional standpoint, you shouldn't see any change on your side other than now you have the ability to set each of these individual lines to a different person. Previously, if you updated one, it was really updating the overall lead designer for the opportunity. So we change all the rest of the lines here. So this lead designer is what I'm referring to. So the designer can be set to whoever, and then your design time can be set to individuals as needed. Cool. So the next next thing here is my account updates and my company updates, and these are the ones that I think personally I'm the most excited about. So let's jump in. So as a reminder, the My Account page is accessed by clicking this avatar icon. It's where you can change your password, set your security question, all of that stuff. What I'm going to direct your attention to is these two new fields here, default homepage and default location. So both of these are brand new. Everyone's will be set to these two options that we're looking at here automatically, but you can change them based on your preferences. So the default homepage, and I just think this part is really cool, is that you can now either land on the project overview, the opportunity overview, the forecast, tasks, project summary, opportunity summary, or most importantly, the last opportunity or project. So by setting it to this last opportunity or project means that whichever project you were looking at last, like since we're on the info page here of the Spurs new office, when we log back into the application next time, or if we reload the page, it will land us back here on that Spurs new office for opportunity. And then next here is this default location. So all the locations that you have added within your My Company page will be available here via this dropdown. So I'm going to set mine to San Antonio, and that'll mean that every opportunity I create, since I'm located in San Antonio, they'll all be automatically assigned to San Antonio. We think it's pretty handy. One less thing for you to remember if you do need to do that on each opportunity. So I'll go ahead and click save here, and just as a quick demo of this, I'm going to log out and just show you that when I log back in, we're going to come right back to that opportunity. There you have it. And just as a reminder, this is where that location is stored within the opportunity info page. So next we'll take a look at the My Company updates. So adding addresses, configure the address, and to view who has active accounts. So the My Company page, as a reminder, is also found up here at the top right. It is under the building icon, which is also known as the waffle icon. So once we click into it here, we'll get the locations in the middle. You'll see that your previous address is now under this location called headquarters. And you can see here that it is set as the headquarters, and you can't update it, not from here anyway. And use this location on documents. This is also not immediately editable. The way that these are editable is by setting another location as the headquarters. And we've got a little reminder about what the logic driving that is. The reason we have that is we want to make sure that you always have headquarters within the application. So by setting the headquarters on another location, which I'll show you, we'll remove, or we'll change this to no for everything else. And then secondarily, there's this use location on documents. This is the way you'll be able to configure if you want multiple different headers based on the project or opportunity. So let me go and click save here, and I'll jump into the San Antonio one. What we'll do is we'll add an address for all of your locations. What you'll see is that they will not have an address by default, so you'll have to go and add them because previously all we had was the description. So once you add all of that information in here, you'll have two options. At the top, you can set this as the headquarters, or you can also just use the location on the documents. If I just change this one and click save, what it's going to do is it's going to allow me to have documents that have multiple different locations on it. So all of the documents that I create from the application, such as my quote documents, such as like a purchase order or anything else that you're creating from the application, it'll have the headquarters address unless it is a San Antonio project. If it's a San Antonio project, it will use the address from this one. And the way to set this one as my headquarters, all I do is open it up, flag this to yes. You can see it's no longer editable. And then when I click save, we now have San Antonio at the top here because you always have your headquarters listed here at the top. So the next thing I wanted to point out is that we now have this active, whether a user is active or not, viewable to all of you. So previously this had to be viewed by an administrator, but now we've set it up so that you're able to view that and know exactly which users are active. Ultimately, what we really want to do is put as much of the ability to manage this yourself as we can. So this is really just the next step along that path for us. Cool. So the last piece of the updates that I want to go through here live today is to filter task and schedule calendars by project or opportunity. And this one's pretty neat too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the schedule tab. And you can see that we've got this new section here on the left. So we've got two things here. We've got a couple more filter options. So we've got all milestones, on-site, install, and then as well as all open and closed schedule items. So I'll leave it on what it's on right now. By default, we're viewing all projects and all opportunity schedules. And what we can do, let's say that we just want to view all the opportunities that are associated with the spurs. So I'm just going to click these ones here. And once we get some with schedule items in July, they'll start populating here. So you can see that they're there. And then we can also filter over here for all of our schedule items. So this will even show the one that we had closed out during the beginning part of our training. But yeah, using it is pretty straightforward. Once you deselect all of these opportunities, what we'll see is that it will just go back to showing us everything. So it'll take just a moment to load, but once we got it there, all of this stuff will load. Cool. So that's it for the updates. Before I jump into the DIRT specific functions, is there any questions from the phone? Cool. Well, we'll keep on going then. So we'll go through orders, deficiencies, and forecasting. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the Spurs Tim's Office project. I'm going to go and edit project, and I'm going to navigate over to the orders tab here. So for orders, this is one of the really one of the most I think helpful pieces of the application before Kinetic. And everyone who is a partner that doesn't use Kinetic, what they're doing is they're submitting the Excel files, and really the biggest pain point for that is a lot of times they would be submitted and they'd be missing information. So we've got this validate order button here, and what this is going to do, I'm going to go ahead and click it. It's going to tell us, are there any pieces missing here before we submit? So you can see that we've got our ceiling heights and details, and then our ICE files need to be uploaded. So we'll know that we have to fix both of those things before we're able to submit the order. So the submit order has the same logic behind it. So before you're able to submit, it'll tell you got to fix these things too here. So there's a lot of sections to this order. And one thing I like to do is just utilize these buttons here. So this will expand everything. Just makes it so that we can view all of the stuff that we're looking at. And I'm going to take you through section by section here and just point out a couple of key pieces of information. Naturally, all the pieces in red here, everything that's got a red highlight here is required and will be validated when you click that validate order button. So if you don't have something filled in here, that will trip that. So the two things that I want to point out on this page are the on-site date, because you select the on-site date based on a schedule item. So what this is going to show me is all of the schedule items that I have that are listed specifically as a milestone type of on-site. So if you're looking at this list and let's say that the on-site date actually has shifted. I'm going to click this one and edit it. Previously, you had to go over the schedule tab in order to do that. So now we say move back a week to the 22nd. Once I save this, we now have the option to pick that one. So I clicked it, and now I've got the on-site date here set from our schedule item. The other thing that I want to show you as far as these sliders go are the overhead brackets only option. So if you have a parts only order, you can use this, and this will actually reduce a lot of the validations. So you can see that there's this information message that pops up. So you no longer have to submit ceiling heights, floor finishes, seismic, project finishes, doors and hardware, or electrical for an overhead brackets only order or a parts only order. Since we want to go through all of this, I'm gonna flag this back to no, so that we have all the sections below still visible. The next section here, we've got our stakeholders. So we've got our end user information. You can use this street address to change it just based on what needs to be populated here. And then you've got your partner information. And then this part is new here. DIRT recently updated their Excel form. So this satellite location is brand new on their form. And for us, this is actually similar functionality, just been renamed. It used to be attributed location. And now you can put this here as, one of your other locations that are managed in that My Company page that we looked at a few moments ago. Then we've got our architect and GC. These are, if you set them at the opportunity stage, these will pull all the way through here. So I think a lot of you will already have that populated by the time you get here. The next two sections here are the project delivery information and pre-ship delivery information. So you can set this delivery location by using this dropdown, or you can always override these individual cells here. So most of the time, I think that you're going to be using one of these dropdowns. That makes it really easy to set your address here. So if you have multiple warehouses, we'll get that pop-up. The same thing's true for install team warehouse. Then you can also set your delivery contact, and you can manage your project team from here. Just as a side note, whenever you're selecting a person from any of these fields, the vast majority of the time, if you can't find someone on that list, it's because they're not on the project team. So we've got these manage project team buttons throughout the application to allow you to better be able to manage that. This delivery notes section allows you to provide any notes to your DIRT counterpart that may be relevant. So if you have special skids or stackable skids, etc., you can flag this to yes. It will also create a note here, and you can see that we've just got some placeholder text here that says, please describe why special skids are required, additional fees may apply. So we can replace that with what we want to make sure to inform our DIRT counterpart of. So moving on down, the one thing that I'll point out here from pre-ship delivery information is the same as above. You can use this to just set all of your information for this section based on the section above. This site dimensions piece is really intended to be, just make sure that you're thinking about all of the different things. So our site dimensions apply to the ICE file. You've got to flag this to yes. And then we've got another one here is DIRT sitting on a raised floor. You've got to, if it is, you'll want to mark this yes. And then I think probably the one that's the easiest to sneak by a new user about what's required versus not, because I think they're pretty clearly labeled, with this red tag, is that at least one of these ceiling heights needs to be marked as hold to or confirmed or site confirmed. You can see that we've got none of these here highlighted because we've got a red flag here. So if we change this measurement level to site confirmed or hold to provided, what it's going to do is it's going to change the flag to green. And you need at least one of these ceiling heights to be confirmed before you're able to submit your order, unless it's for parts only. So similarly, Almost every section has the section for notes here. So if you need to provide any additional information, this is where you'll be able to do it. And then we've got a ceiling type and ceiling tile type that you can select from drop downs here as well. Floor finishes, I won't dwell on this one because I think it's pretty straightforward. You know, you pick from the drop downs here as it applies to your project, add your material thickness and any notes. And then seismic information, if the answer is yes, there does another piece here. It does show another piece here. So have seismic requirements been coordinated with all parties, yes or no? Next, we've got our project finishes. The one that I'll point out here is the door and glass panel frame. Because we have doors yes in this project, it is required. If I were to flip it over to no, you'll see that this is no longer tagged in red and is no longer required. So in addition to selecting from the drop-downs for all of the pieces that are required, you also have to flag this all finishes specified in ICE flag to yes. And then naturally, we do have notes as well. So multiple profile, you'll just want to make sure to add those notes here. Doors and hardware, we'll go and flag this back to yes. In here, you've got room to fill out all of your information for your door hardware types, and then include any notes. And if you do have a COM hardware requirement, you can flag this to yes as well. So this last section here is for your electrical information. So is DIRT responsible for the electric components for this project? If the answer is yes, you'll have all those fields. If the answer is no, you just have, all of that stuff collapses. But if it is yes, really it's just from these drop downs. So, you being the person who's going to know your project best, you'll go through this, make sure these are all filled out appropriately, and then include any notes here. And then this last section is all project notes. So as we're adding notes to any of those individual sections here, this is a one consolidated view of all of those notes from above. So we can see our skids here, and as well as our project finishes are all showing up down here. So that is our project scope form out of Kinetic. Once you've done this, you can click this validate order button, make sure that you've captured everything. It is a pretty, there's a lot of fields in here. So, I think it's handy to just do that at the end, make sure that you've captured everything that you did. Oh, and one other thing is make sure to always click this save button here after you're done making your updates, because this does need to be saved specifically. It's not going to save just as you're changing these drop downs. You need to save it. So once you're all good there, the last thing to do will be to add the required files. So that validation was telling me that I don't have anything stored here in this ICE files section. So you've got 3 areas to store files. So for our ICE files, project PDFs, and our freight quote. So go ahead and click this. What I'll do is I'll grab a couple of pictures here just so we've got something uploaded here. So it's not going to check to make sure that it's a .ice file. What it's checking is to make sure that you've included something in this document section. So, it's up to you to make sure that you've got the correct file, the most up-to-date ICE file loaded up here. Once it's been submitted, what your DIRT counterpart will do is they'll use the zip and download all order entry files to download everything that you've got in here. And then for this project PDFs, you'll also have to make sure that this is flagged to yes if millwork is included in your order. So last thing is, how do we submit it? So you come back over to the project scope form tab and we use this submit order. Now that we have included everything, what I would expect to see is a pop-up allowing us to set who it's to and to fill out our email message. So we're going to take this from top to bottom. The first section is what do you want to attach to this email, because it's going to send an email to everyone on this list here. By default, we only have the project scope form as the attachments. The project PDFs, freight quote, and order entry checklist are all available within the application. And I wanted to make sure that it doesn't bounce, your email doesn't get bounced when it's trying to go to who it's delivered to. So Because all of this stuff is available with an application, we'd recommend just leaving this as is. We know that the project scope form being just a Word file won't exceed anyone's mailbox size. So the next thing here, we've got all of the dirt people who are assigned to your project will automatically populate in here. And then what you can do is you can add people from your project team, whoever needs to be copied on this email. What I'm doing is I'm just holding down the control key, and that's going to let me select multiple people at once and bring them all into the project. So we've got 13 people who this would be going to at this point. Then finally, you've got your message body here. Update it as you see fit. And then once you're all good, just finally click the send email button. But since Dirt doesn't like giving fake $200,000 orders, I'm not going to submit it today. But that is how you submit your orders to Dirt. Once you submit it, what it's going to say is your order has been successfully submitted, and order entry will pick up the baton and process it from there, and they'll reach out if they have any questions. So a final note on orders is that if you have a project with multiple orders, you can come over to this additional orders tab, and you can use this button, create additional order, to create a new order and to submit it to Dirt. It'll just look the same way. Up here, this top gray bar, one handy thing is you can double click this to maximize it. But all of these fields here are the same, and your information will carry over between your original order to your additional order. And then you can always click into these to edit them. So if there aren't any questions, what I'll do is I'll continue on to deficiencies. So deficiencies are under here, under the project management tab. For any new users, just as a rule of thumb, if you can't find what you're looking for, either on this left-hand menu, or once you're within a project, if you can't find it on this top menu, go to the project management tab, and then you'll have a bunch of sub-tabs here. This is the only one of these that has a bunch of sub-tabs like this. So we'll come over to the deficiencies and billables tab. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use one that we've already created, and we'll talk through some of the different fields in here. So the first section is your deficiency information. Your title will already pre-populate based on your project name, and you can update this to be more specific to your deficiency. You'll have your project listed here, whether it's got chargeable items or not is only editable from a Dirt standpoint. And then you've got your associated contract number. So you can select this from a dropdown, or if you need to edit it for whatever reason, let's say one of the numbers was transposed and I just need to click this and really needs to end in 8 instead of 7. We'll just click save here, and that's all set. And then you've also got your PID number. Your PID number is only going to pull from the ones that are associated to the contract number you have selected. So if you're going in here and you can't find your PID number, it probably means that you should double check your contract number. You can also create a new PID number here if you need to. So the next 3 required fields are your insight number, your FedEx account number, and your severity number. Note that if one doesn't apply, you can put NA in here, and that's okay for a required field as well. You've also got these help buttons here on the right-hand side of the fields if you ever need a little bit of additional information on here. So this just gives you a definition of what urgent is considered. On the right side, we've got all of our delivered to information, and similar to other portions of the application, you can select from a drop-down here. So job site, that'll pull through whatever you have on your project information page. Or if you've got a warehouse, you can select it from what will pop up there. And then you've got your contact here as well. So this last submitted piece we'll come back to in a second. So your project team here in the middle, this will be ultimately who gets copied on the email or who is pre-populated to be sent the email. This is a really important one to make sure that you've got your dirt bag assigned to them, because if they're not assigned and they're not on the project team, they won't be able to view your deficiency within the application once they get that email. And you can add a dirt bag to your team and to this deficiency by clicking that Add Dirt Bag button, and that'll let you do that really easily. The final section here is the deficiency details, and this is what will match to the really to that Excel file that if you have been using or submitting deficiencies outside of Kinetic, this is what will replicate all of those line items. So you include the product here, what zone, elevation, frame number, and MSGR tag are assigned to it, as well as the finish and the reason that you're submitting it. So was it damage during install? Was it design error, order error, not received, short shipped? Whatever the case may be, you can select it here. And then whether it's billable or not is something that you can set. So billable, when I first heard it, it felt like a little bit of a misnomer to me, but billable in this context means that it is billable to the dirt partner. So if I were to select this as billable, it would be my expectation that dirt would not be paying for this. So billable also can mean that it is one of your vendors who will ultimately be paying for it. And the way to assign a vendor to it is make sure to check this responsible for payment in addition to selecting the vendor who will be responsible. And once you have a billable, if you wanted to print out a form for it, you can also include a signature block. Some of our partners do that, who are going to send something over to the vendor to have them signed to make sure that they acknowledge it and everyone is on the same page with it. The next thing we've got, you can assign a PO. You can assign an insight number to the individual line item as well as the PID number. You can fill out your reason, and then this billable details is available if it is flagged as a billable here. Then the next, we've got our status of the individual line item, your count ID number, your MAT or DWG, and then finally your quantity, and if it applies, your unit price. You can also add tax if you have a situation where you need to add that as well. So because we've marked this one as a billable, you've got the option to create a Word document or to send an email. If this is not marked billable, you'll lose both of those options because you'll really just want to submit your deficiency as a whole. And then, of course, for each of your line items, you can attach related images. One of the cool things about this is you can also get this process started in the field with your mobile device. So if you just go to the regular pm.kinetic cloud website on your mobile browser, you can create a deficiency, you can get it started, you can take a picture with your phone, and then you can pick up the process from here back on your desktop once you have all the information you need to submit your deficiency. So once you're all good with all of your deficiency information, your project team, and your deficiency details, then you are ready to submit your deficiency. And you've got this Validate Deficiency button. What that's going to do is make sure that all of your required fields are filled out. So once we click this, it says, nice work. Your deficiency has passed the validation and is ready to be authorized by your DIRT PM. So what we want to do here is we want to go ahead and send the email directly from Kinetic. And what this is going to do is it's going to send an email over to our recipients, and it is going to provide them a deep link back to Kinetic where they can view all this information. It will include a Word file that has the deficiency details, but they'll be able to come back in here and mark it as authorized for you. So I'll go ahead and send this email. And what I want to show you here is this submitted button. So this had been flagged as no, and now it is flagged as yes. And it shows me when it was submitted. So on July 2nd at 2:53. And, let's say it turns out we have one more of these items that I need to submit. So I'm actually going to flag this back to no real quick. And I'm going to duplicate an item, click save here. And now we're actually good to go. And I can manually just flag this over to yes if I don't need to send another email. So this way, when your dirt counterpart is looking through their deficiencies, can see that it's identified and is also submitted, and they can come in here and mark it authorized. Then for you, once you have something authorized, you can mark it as installed, and that's how you matriculate it through those kind of three statuses. So, of course, the objective being to get everything over to the installed section. Okay, so I guess we'll use these last couple of minutes here to take a look at the forecast for dirt specifically. So we've got two tabs here that'll have a lot of the information that you'll look at for all of your open opportunities. So the Opportunities tab and the Forecast tab, we're actually going to focus on the Opportunities tab because we are focused on providing the SFN numbers to our dirt grab. So on the Opportunities tab, we have this section of 6 columns here for walls, millwork, all the way to our total estimated SFN numbers. On the Forecast tab, we just have cost, profit, and loss. Cost, profit, and sell, rather. So under here, what we can do is we can filter. So we may not want to send them over everything because this includes a lot of projects that are ongoing and have already been ordered. So I'm going to click this search button, and it's going to give us a bunch of options here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to narrow it down based on status, location, and time frame. So I'm picking these first 4. I'm not worried about anything. 1, project lost, inactive, or canceled. The location, I just want to grab everything from San Antonio because that's where I'm at and that's what my dirt rep needs. And then finally, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to narrow it down by time frame. So right now we've got 49 opportunities, and I'm betting we'll have a whole bunch less with these three filters applied. And perfect. Now we have just 5 opportunities, and we've got all of our SFN numbers populated for each of them. I would take a look at these numbers, make sure that they all made sense, and if not, I would go in and update them. And once they're good, what I would do is I'll just use this To Excel button, and that will pull out a grid just of these exact same columns in the same opportunities that we've got listed here. And that'll be what I can provide to my dirt rep. So it's got the likelihood and the values that they need, and of course, what opportunity it's related to. And we'll take a quick look at the Excel file as well. But you can see it just goes column for column for the same information there. So that's it for the prepared updates and refresher training that we've got today. So I'll go ahead and stop the recording, and thanks for joining today.